If your mix sounds good here, but bad everywhere else, you've missed this. You spent hours on that mix, thought you'd finally nailed it, then you played it in the car and it sounded awful. The bass was muddy, the vocal disappeared, the whole mix just somehow fell apart. And you sat there thinking, how? It sounded brilliant 5 minutes ago. You've probably got no idea why it's happening. It's one sneaky step that's easy to miss. The good news, it's an easy fix. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it without buying a single thing. Right, let's get into it. The problem is getting your mix to translate. And all that really means is how well your mix survives outside your studio. Because here's the dirty little secret about home recording. Your monitors are probably telling the truth. Your room isn't. The walls, the desk, the corners, even the ceiling, they're all changing what you hear before the sound reaches your ears. And your brain, brilliant thing that it is, starts compensating for the problems without you even realizing. So you end up building a mix that sounds amazing in that room, on those speakers, at that volume, but nowhere else. And this is why the car test has existed for decades. Professional engineers have been walking out to the car park with mixes forever. Not because cars are magical, because cars expose problems. If your mix survives the car, you're getting somewhere. Now the good news, this problem is very fixable. 3 things usually cause it: your room, your ears, your stereo image, and your low end. Oh, hang on, that's 4. I did say I've been doing this 40 years. Apparently I still can't count. Let's tackle them one at a time. Your room is the invisible plugin you forgot you installed. Honestly, if I could show beginners one thing instantly, it would be this. Because most untreated rooms exaggerate certain frequencies, especially the bass. So your monitors play an accurate signal, but your room boosts the low end before it reaches your ears, which means you compensate. You pull the bass out of the mix, then you play it somewhere else, and suddenly the mix sounds thin and weak. The opposite happens too. Some rooms absorb too much top end, so people over-brighten their mixes. For years, I genuinely thought I just had bad ears. I didn't. I had a bad room. And then there's your ears. Because loud sounds exciting, we all do it, but the louder you monitor, the more bass and top end your ears perceive. There's actually a scientific reason for this. Basically, your ears hear bass and top end differently at different volumes. So if you mix loud all day, your decisions only work loud. Take that mix onto a phone speaker, it collapses. And trust me, 40 years in, I still catch myself doing it. Right, here's a great test. If your mix falls apart in mono, your stereo image is lying to you. This little button right here, I ignored this for about the first decade of my production life. Not one of my finer career decisions. Quick one, if you're trying to get professional sounding mixes at home without wasting years making the same mistakes I did, subscribe. Right, where were we? Oh yeah, fix number 1. Check your mix in mono. Seriously, one button. If the mix still sounds balanced, punchy and clear, great. If instruments disappear, vocals sync, or things suddenly sound thin and phasey, you've found a translation problem. And this matters because loads of people listen in near mono environments. Phones, Bluetooth speakers, laptops, smart speakers. Phone speakers are brutally honest little things. No real bass, no flattering stereo width, just the truth. Most mono problems usually come from too much stereo widening, phase issues, or double tracks fighting each other. And honestly, sometimes it's a widening plugin across the master bus, doing damage while pretending to help. Absolutely something I would have done in the 90s. So check in mono and fix what disappears. And here's the really sneaky part about stereo width. A lot of beginner mixes sound impressive at first because everything feels wide and huge. Wide guitars, wide reverbs, wide synths, wide backing vocals. But if everything's wide, nothing feels wide anymore, and sometimes the center of the mix, the bit that people actually focus on, the vocal, the snare, the bass, ends up weak. And this is why professional mixes often feel smaller than beginners expect, but somehow more powerful, because the important stuff is solid in the middle. Okay, here's a quick tip. If you want your chorus to feel massive, don't widen everything before. Keep the verse tighter. Then when the width arrives, boom, you actually feel it. Fix number 2. What I like to call the 3-system test. This completely changed how I mix. Here's what you do. Finish your mix, then stop touching plugins. Now go listen somewhere else. Phone, car, cheap earbuds, Bluetooth speaker, anything, and make notes, real notes, because your brain lies to you when you try remembering stuff. Now, here's where this really hit me. I once spent nearly 3 weeks remixing the same track. Export, walk to the car, sounds awful, back inside, change EQ, export again, walk to the car again, sounds awful, again. At one point, I genuinely thought my car speakers were broken. They weren't. the mix only worked in my room. And here's something else beginners don't realize. Different systems don't just reveal different frequencies, they reveal different priorities. The car tells you about low end, phones tell you about vocals, cheap earbuds expose harshness really quickly. And once you start understanding what each system is telling you, you stop randomly tweaking things and you start diagnosing problems properly. Now personally for me, if the vocal works quietly on a phone speaker, that's usually a very good sign, because if people can't clearly hear the vocal, nothing else really matters. And this is another reason reference tracks help so much. If your favorite commercial mix sounds slightly harsh in your car too, great. Now you know it's the car and not your mix. That little realization alone can save you hours. And once I finally understood that, everything changed. The reason the 3-system test works is simple. Every playback system reveals different problems. A mix that survives all 3, that's a translating mix. And yeah, it's a bit of faffing about, but nowhere near as much faffing about as spending 6 hours on a mix that only sounds good in one room. Fix number 3, reference tracks. And this is the one that people either skip completely or use completely wrong. A proper reference track is a professionally mixed song in your genre that already translates everywhere, and you're using it to calibrate your ears. Now, here's how most people use reference tracks. They compare their mix to the reference, feel terrible about themselves, then close the session. Reference tracks aren't there to make you feel inadequate. Reference tracks are there to show you what normal sounds like, how much bass is actually correct, how bright is actually bright, or how wide professional mixes really are. And by the way, most professional mixes are narrower than beginners think. When your mix sounds muddier than the reference, that's useful information. When the vocal sounds dull compared to the reference, that's useful information. You're building a to-do list, not failing a test. And by the way, when you're using reference tracks, level match them. This matters way more than people think, because louder almost always sounds better to the human ear. So if your reference track is 3 dB louder than your mix, your brain instantly thinks, well, obviously theirs sounds better. That's not a fair comparison. Turn the reference down until it roughly matches your mix, and now compare again. Suddenly you stop being distracted by loudness and you start hearing the actual differences. Vocal balance, bass control, harshness, stereo width, depth. That's where the real learning happens. I've used reference tracks for over 30 years. Still use them now. Not because I don't trust my ears, because I trust them enough to know that they need calibrating. And there's another thing that completely wrecks mixed decisions: ear fatigue. This one caught me out for years. You sit there listening to the same loop over and over, 3 hours straight, and your brain starts adapting. Harsh frequencies stop sounding harsh. Too much bass starts sounding normal. You stop hearing problems objectively, which is why some mixes sound amazing at midnight and absolutely dreadful the next morning. We've all done it. You wake up, press play, and immediately think, what was I thinking last night? This isn't because you're stupid. It's because your ears are exhausted. Honestly, one of the best mixing tricks I've ever learned is this. When you think the mix is finished, stop, leave the room, come back tomorrow, because fresh ears will tell you the truth in about 30 seconds. A mix that sounds great in the car, on the phone, on your monitors, that's a mix you've genuinely cracked. Give this a go on your next mix and tell me in the comments which one of these 3 you haven't been doing, because I went through years without doing at least one of them myself. And if you've ever thought, why do my mixes only sound good in my room? Trust me, you're absolutely not alone. Next week, I'm going to show you in 10 minutes what took me 5 years to finally understand. And once you hear it, your mixes will never sound the same again. I'll see you in the next one.